Every car today wants to be your best friend, your entertainment center, your personal assistant, and probably your therapist. They update over the air, learn your habits, and some even drive themselves to pick up your dry cleaning. The 2025 Volkswagen Taos couldn't care less about any of that nonsense. While Tesla is building rockets and Rivian is reinventing trucks, VW quietly built something almost extinct in 2025, a car that just wants to be a car. No theater, no revolution, no disruption, just four wheels, a steering wheel, and the radical idea that maybe, just maybe, we've overcomplicated the simple act of getting from point A to point B. And in a world obsessed with the future of mobility, this might be the most subversive thing anyone can build today. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse Racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. In a world where every car company is building something that wants to manage your life, Volkswagen has built something that just wants to transport you reliably and efficiently. And this question is valid to every driver. Does this back to basics approach mean you're missing out on something, or does it create a more engaging driving experience on a day-to-day basis? Well, that's what we're going to answer. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. For 2025, the Taos gets a bunch of updates. The obvious ones are the styling changes, but the big ones all happen under the skin. It starts with Volkswagen's MQB platform, one basic design, infinite possibilities, including Golf, Jetta, Tiguan, Atlas, and even the Audi Q3. They're all wearing different clothes on the same skeletal structure. The genius is that when you nail the fundamentals once, you can focus on making each variant actually good at its specific job instead of reinventing wheels, literally. Under the hood is the 1.5-liter Turbo 4, but it's dialed up to 174 horsepower now, up from 158. It also makes 184 pounds of torque from 1750 to 4,000 RPM. Because this is a 4-motion all-wheel drive, it gets the 8-speed automatic instead of the old 7-speed DSG. Steering's electrically assisted, suspension uses McPherson struts at the front, multi-link at the rear, disc brakes all around. Wheels and tires start at 18s. These are optional 19s. Payload capacity is just shy of 1,000 pounds. There is no official towing capacity, and curb weight of this one is 3,448 pounds. And fun fact, this Taos is named after a city in New Mexico that actually has fewer people than VW sold Taos models last year. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this, and if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. From a driver interface standpoint, this is straight up VW. Very happy with my relationship to the steering wheel and the pedals. Even though this is a compact crossover, the seat is big enough, it's supportive enough, it's comfortable, there's a reasonable amount of adjustment to it, and then tremendous amount of adjustment in the steering column, so just about anybody can get set up perfectly here behind the wheel. Speaking of the wheel, love the shape, the size of it. It's absolutely spot on. The one thing I don't care for is the aesthetic choice of a little bit of a flat bottom bit, and it's purely for aesthetics. There's really no function here. Sure, maybe it's a little more exciting than a round wheel, but I'll take a round wheel every day. Because this isn't a Golf, we're seated well off the floor, which is a good thing. That's one of the reasons why people buy crossovers, that taller hip point, and then once you're here, you've got great visibility. Speaking of which, visibility is excellent in all directions. Zero complaints here. And even though we don't have a camera mirror, and there's a couple other features that are missing from this Taos that should be here given the high level of equipment, but with these mirrors, large outboard mirrors, and adjust your rear view mirror properly, once that's all done properly, blind spots aren't real. Here on the steering wheel, we do have some secondary controls. for the audio system and some of the display information on the instrument cluster. But what I like about these buttons is they have a very high quality feel to them. They could easily be at home in an Audi or a Bentley, for example. The instrument cluster, all digital, configurable to a certain degree. There are some LED displays on the outboard side of the instrument cluster for water temperature and fuel level, and everything here works just fine. The climate controls, however, are all touch-based, and what I've found is that they actually work pretty well. I really can't complain, but I would love some buttons and dials and switches here instead of this touch-based control system. The infotainment system works exactly like it expected. I use it on Apple CarPlay. The interface itself is very simple, very straightforward, and there's nothing here that's going to make your life more complicated on a day-to-day basis. About one of those missing features, given the high level of equipment, I would have expected an auto hold button that would allow me to take my foot off the brake pedal here at a stoplight. And given that I live in a big, busy city, I'm always sitting at traffic lights. And that's one of those things that I think is really missing here, given the high level of equipment. I mean, this thing has heated and cooled seats after all. Despite this being Volkswagen's smallest crossover, at least in this part of the world, this has a lot of space and a lot of storage. Here in the front row, your passenger, very comfortable. A lot of storage for things, a couple of cup holders, bottle holders in the door, wireless CarPlay. And then in the second row, I'm actually quite comfortable behind myself in this seating position. There's more than enough space, more than enough headroom. I don't know if I'd want to put 3 full-size adults in the back seat of this Taos, but 2 for sure, no problem. And I think those 2 would be very comfortable over long distances. Then under the hatch, there's a tremendous amount of space. There's a ton of cargo carrying capacity in this little Volkswagen crossover, and I'm very impressed. And that's the thing. Interior packaging is where Volkswagen's German engineering really shines. The trick is pushing the wheels to the corners and not wasting space on any dramatic design features. It's practical space, not Instagram space, so it's boring until you need it, and then it's just brilliant. And this traditional German Volkswagen approach to ergonomics means that everything is exactly where a 5'10" engineer from Wolfsburg thinks it should be. And overall, Volkswagen's approach to interior tech with this Taos is much like that of a Swiss Army knife. A lot of functions, and you can find everything when you need it. While Tesla puts everything in one massive screen and calls it revolutionary, Volkswagen kept physical knobs and buttons because apparently they've driven real cars in real weather. The touchscreen handles infotainment duties without trying to control your entire life. It's responsive, intuitive, and doesn't require a computer science degree to adjust the radio. And sometimes the most advanced technology is the stuff that actually works instead of trying to control your life. When it comes to acceleration, I have to say it's a little bit deceptive, but not in the way that you think. In day-to-day use, this is quicker than it really needs to be. When you're asking for maximum acceleration from a dead stop, well, that's where the 0 to 60 time of 7 seconds flat reveals itself. When you're daily driving this Taos, think enthusiastic rather than exciting. There's enough power to merge confidently, pass safely, and occasionally surprise a Prius at a stoplight. The torque curve is beautifully flat, delivering consistent pull from low engine speeds without any turbo lag that plagues some competitors. On the move, it feels stronger than the numbers suggest because power delivery is so linear. You're not waiting for any boost to build or to find that sweet spot. The engine just delivers acceleration exactly the way you ask for it. The fact that they ditched the dual clutch for this 8-speed automatic might be Volkswagen's smartest decision for 2025. In the right application, the dual clutch can be brilliant for track days and day-to-day use, and in others, well, like Taos owners reported, it was suboptimal. This torque converter automatic just works. It adapts to your driving style and never makes you think about shift logic. 8 forward gears means the engine always has the right ratio for the job, whether it's climbing hills or maintaining highway speed without screaming like a blender. And I think here in the Taos, it proves that sometimes the most sophisticated solution is the one that solves actual problems instead of creating an impressive spec sheet. In the interest of science, we need to launch this Taos, don't you think? Let's. It's quick enough in a straight line, but just from a dead stop, this is not going to win any stoplight races, that's for sure. But that's not the intent of the Taos. Like I've been saying, the Taos is quicker when it's on the move than from a dead stop. And I think that's partly due to the way this engine builds torque. That torque curve is impressively flat, and peak torque is available very, very low in the rev range, which is where it counts. That's where we spend most of our time in daily driving scenarios. Handling is one of those areas where Volkswagen's DNA comes shining through, particularly in satisfying driving dynamics, because this is very enjoyable to drive. And I didn't know what to expect because I'd never driven a Taos before, but what I found is, coming from other crossovers and other similar vehicles, this is much more satisfying to drive in terms of it responding to my inputs. Starting with the steering, what I love about it is that it's got a quicker steering rack than much of the competition. So it's more responsive to my inputs, and it's exactly the way it should be in a small crossover like this. If you want to have fun while you're behind the wheel, well, you do need responsive steering. And the fact that this is a little quicker than most transforms the driving experience from dull and sanitized to actually a little bit more exciting when it comes to the corners. Brakes are strong, powerful, linear. I've got great feel and control through this brake pedal. And again, I think that's Volkswagen's DNA coming through in this brake pedal. And they do know how to build drivers' cars like the GTI, the GLI, the Golf R, for example. And I think that's highlighted here because this brake pedal is excellent. Love the way it works. The ride, of course, is very crowd pleasing. There's very little intrusion into the cabin with any noise or road imperfections coming through into the cabin. That's great. But then this Taos is a little bit more surprising in the corners. Uses McPherson struts at the front, multi-link at the rear, and that's kind of the automotive equivalent of a good pair of jeans. Well, it's time to see what this thing does in the corners. Let's see. Great turn-in response. Yeah, there's a little body roll, as you should expect. Braking into the corners, fantastic. Turn-in response, love the turn-in response. But yeah, the suspension, definitely on the softer side, but body and wheel control is actually quite good. The dampers do a great job of controlling wheel motion, especially in keeping those tires in contact with the road, because that's what you want, of course. Into this corner, off camber on the exit should reveal some bad habits on the exit, and nope, not at all. The all-wheel drive system does a great job putting down power. I'm shocked, actually, that we didn't get any understeer on the corner exit of that off-camber corner, because that always reveals handling characteristics. To be fair, I do think the suspension is a little on the soft side, so it does a great job of soaking up the bumps and making sure that tires are in contact with the road surface. And don't forget, because this is an all-wheel drive Taos, it benefits from that multi-link rear setup. Front-wheel drive Taos models don't use the same rear suspension setup. Now, let's not kid ourselves. This Taos isn't GTI sharp, that's for sure, but it's confidence inspiring in ways that really matter for daily driving. The chassis feels substantial without being ponderous, and composed without being boring. It's like Volkswagen's dynamics engineers knew exactly what this Taos was supposed to be and executed it perfectly. Overall ride and handling sharper than any Honda, certainly less aggressive than some of the turbo Mazdas, that's for sure, but it is still very confidence inspiring, much more than I think drivers would ever expect from a Taos. And I know that's like saying water is wetter than sand, but it is 2025, so here we are. How do you spec yours? Well, I do have some thoughts, but first of all, what you are looking at is an SEL all-wheel drive in the States. In Canada, it's called the Highline. This is Serrano green paint, and the interior is Titan black. Base price in the US is $34,695. Add $455 for the paint, and you get a total as tested of $35,150. In Canada, base price is $38,995. Add $500 for this paint and $500 for the 19-inch wheels, and you get a total as tested of $39,995 Canadian. And these prices are before freight freight taxes, fees, etc. The options list is refreshingly short, which means VW kept pretty much everything you want in the different trim packages. This Serrano green metallic paint is probably the only exterior option worth considering. It's distinctive without being weird, and it actually photographs beautifully, and I think it's coming through in this episode. These 19s are standard on the SEL in the US, so no decision paralysis there. Volkswagen's eliminated most of the nickel and dime options that plague other brands. It's a transparent approach that respects your intelligence and your time, so you can build your Volkswagen Taos in minutes rather than hours. Here's what no other reviewer is going to tell you about the Taos, and I know this because I've spent hours digging through subreddits and forums. You already know the 25 represents a complete automotive do-over for the Taos. Early owners were either evangelical advocates or absolutely furious, with very little middle ground. The difference? Timing. 22 and 23 models had some issues, and some owners reported waiting for months for repairs while being 16th in line for parts. But here's the plot twist. VW didn't just fix these problems, they fundamentally redesigned them. That transmission swap from the DSG to the 8-speed automatic, that wasn't a cost-cutting move, it was admitting the DSG was wrong for this application. And for 2025, this has had 0 safety recalls. Real-world fuel economy from over 1.5 million track miles show owners consistently beating EPA estimates, some achieving over 50 miles per gallon on highway trips. The engine's learning system actually adapts to your driving style over time, eliminating turbo lag for aggressive drivers like me. All of this creates a unique situation. You're buying a vehicle whose reputation reflects problems that no longer exist. And sometimes the best automotive stories come from car companies who've learned from their mistakes instead of just repeating them. My verdict? Well, let's start with fuel consumption, and it's completely non-scientific, and don't take this as gospel. I'm getting about 25 miles per gallon or 10 liters per 100 kilometers from my Canadian friends, and that is simply because I enjoy using the throttle. So I'd love to hear from Taos owners. Let me know in the comments below what kind of mileage you're getting. Now, here's what I learned after a week of analog driving, and it's that this Taos doesn't want your attention. It doesn't beg for software updates or demand you learn new gestures. The infotainment screen does exactly what you want. The knobs turn, the buttons press, and nothing tries to predict what you want before you want it. And in 2025, that's not boring, that's luxury. While everyone is building smartphones on wheels, VW built a tool, and tools don't need to be smart, they just need to work every single time, without drama, without updates, without wondering if today is the day your car decides to think differently than you do. The future of cars might be autonomous, electric, and artificially intelligent. But sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is remember what cars were supposed to be in the first place. Reliable machines that amplify human capability without replacing human judgment. The Taos isn't fighting the future, it's simply not apologizing for being present. I think this Taos represents everything good about modern automotive engineering applied to just simple transportation needs. It's efficient without being precious about it, capable without being dramatic, and intelligent without being intrusive. In an industry obsessed with disruption and innovation, Volkswagen quietly built a little crossover that just works. Now let's be real, the Taos won't change your life, inspire your dreams, or maybe even make you a better person, but it will reliably support whatever life you're already building, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. And in a world filled with chaos, maybe a good, simple car is the ultimate luxury. The Taos is like choosing an old school diner over a trendy restaurant. Less exciting for social media, but much more satisfying. And I think this is the anti-influencer car because it's genuinely useful, not because it photographs well. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2025 Volkswagen Taos. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including a very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Volkswagen Taos. And since you hung around this long, we'll have a look at one of my favorites from Volkswagen. It's something they don't make anymore. It's the 2024 Volkswagen GTI with the 6-speed manual. And if you can find one of those, grab it, because I think it's probably going to become a collector's item. But I think you might appreciate that episode, and it's a fun car. Anyway, thanks again for watching. See you again next time.